YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of a figure. This is the Revoltech Vic Viper from the game Zone of Enders. I'm talking about the second game, and I have played the second game as well. Now, the Vic Viper, the name is it's a reference to a lot of stuff, but it originated from the old classic game called Gladius, and then later the Vic Viper has made its appearance in many other anime games or other references such as Yu-Gi-Oh! Or other anime, and now this. I heard the original designer for the Vic Viper in the Gladius game. He did say I have read this from somewhere else, so I'm not sure if this is real or not, but he said he wanted to make a version where it actually transforms into a mech, and this could be one of those concepts. Alright, so the Vic Viper and Zone of Enders, there are some classifications for the mechs there, and I believe this one's called an LEV, which stands for Laborious Extra-Orbital Vehicle, which I believe in the game they also call it LEVs, I believe, but yeah. So in the game, this is one of the first, actual tough battles you fight against, and the Vic Viper is actually a pretty challenging mech in the game if you're not really aware or if you're not used to the controls. Alright, so let's get on to the review. So, as I mentioned, this is a figure from Revoltech, meaning that this figure uses specific joints, which is one of these joints where you can hear these ratchet joints. These are like the most basic big ones, and there are smaller versions as well. So, this kit does have a great amount of articulation, but at the same time, in order to do the articulation, you need to understand how the joints move, because keep in mind, the joints, they have a certain direction where they can ratchet into, so you cannot force the way how you have to move it the way how it's meant to. So yeah, let's talk about components before I go for the tricky articulation. Alright, so what you get, of course, is obviously the Vic Viper. We have all the stuff, the wings, the arms, the legs, everything is there. These are one of those mechs that does not have any proper feet, so this thing cannot stand on its own. And oddly enough, instead of your traditional human type finger hands, there's no such thing. We get these wing blades. Of course, we do get parts for a arm that has actual hands. So yeah, and these actually do look pretty good. So here are the basic components. So we get two arms, which has the fingers on it, and these are actually pretty fun to use than you think. And then we have these two effect parts, which are blade effect parts, because in the game the Vic Viper does have a slashing attack move, and these are for those. And then we get this part. This being Vic Viper, this can actually transform into a vehicle, a flying vehicle or jet type vehicle. So it is able to do that, but in order to transform, you need to use this part. So this is considered a parts forming figure. And we get this box, which I'm not sure if the recent Revoltech figures do these, but these boxes are usually meant to put in like leftover parts that, let's say, usually we would have like multiple hands or extra joints, so we would put these parts inside here. But in this case, this really doesn't make any sense because all the other parts are mostly big, so this box won't be that much of a help. Just saying. And then we get the traditional Revoltech action base or stand, whatever they call it these days, but I'm not going to use these because these aren't that great, or sometimes tricky to use, but yeah, you get the idea. Alright, so let's get on to the review. So I'm going to take this off for the action base for now and see how it works. So being Revoltech, these are one of those figures that has a lot of moving joints, so sometimes it could be pretty tricky, or sometimes it could get a little bit messy while touching the figure, but hopefully I can get this through. Okay, and I would like to mention there is, for those who are not a big fan of figures, I believe there is a model kit of this from Kotobukiya. Of course, the proportions might be different, especially the head, because I have seen pictures of the model kit version of this, and the head seems way bigger than this. Okay, let's start with the head. The head is actually pretty decent looking, pretty basic. A mech with a visor, nothing too special going on there. And we do have a traditional Revoltech joint going on the neck, the bottom section. There is actually one more on the top, so we basically do get the chicken neck, or the giggity of the neck joints from Quagmire. But yeah, we can go up that much, down pretty good, because this is actually mostly for the transformation, but you get the idea. Now twisting the head, once again you have to, because I can't if it's like this, twisting the head is possible, but right now the joints are, most of them are pretty stiff, so I'm not gonna say it's really easy to do so. So what you need to do is basically you have to pull these off. So basically, what I'm seeing right now is that the joint is not actually 90 degree. It's not actually plugged in 90 degree. It's actually in an angle. So you need to know that angle, and then you should be able to twist the head when you do so. But if you're not careful enough, you might actually break the joints, because I've actually heard some people saying they broke the Revoltech joints. So yeah, sorry about that. Now we have the arms. Now these arms, we have one of these joints, which are pretty interesting, but they're pretty much the same, but two joints in one. So because of how the connection is there, I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, it's supposed to go in more, but it's not going in. So there might be something wrong with the joint, or there could be, sometimes these Revoltech joints could have, the end of the pegs can have nubs on them. So you need to cut them off to make them go fully in. So this might be one of those cases. So you can move the forward and backward a lot. That's actually pretty good. And then if I have the directions correct, you can move the shoulders up that much. And then if you have it on the right direction, you should be able to rotate the arm 360. But of course, just be careful where you're going. And then we have this arm, which once again we have another Revoltech joint. And if we're on the right direction, we can have a more than a 90-degree bend. So yeah, and we can open up that much. So pretty cool. And we get these small details like number 74, and then we have a barcode here for some reason. And yeah. So before I go on to the body or the lower section, let's look at the back. Now the back, this may look a little bit complicated, but we have this part that actually moves the entire section of the back here if everything is in place. So yeah, we can move these up and down. And these are the wings, which, sorry about that, I had to sneeze. So we have these parts, which can be a little bit tricky, or can become a little bit messy, but let's look at it one by one. So we have this part, the entire section we can move up and down. And then we have this section, right, which has another Revoltech joint right over here that can move up and down like this. And then we have another connection right over here, which can move the wing like this, up and down. And then another joint right over here, which you can pretty much swivel the wings or also change the position like this. So yeah, in the game, and most of the time, the position would be something like this, and then the wings would be spreading outwards like this to some degree. So yeah, you can pretty much tell that if you're not aware how the joints move, this thing can become a little bit on the messy side. So you're going to need to do a lot of learning or practicing with the figure. Okay, so we've seen the basics of the back. Now let's look at the body. The body does actually have a Revoltech joint here, so technically a ab crunch is also possible. One thing I should mention is that this middle section right over here, this yellow part, this is actually rubber, and yeah, I think this might be one of those pieces that can rip off if you're not really careful. So just be aware of it. Okay, and then let's see. So we have the legs right over here. The legs, once again, another Revoltech joint. So looking at the direction, we can move the legs to the side about 90 degrees, or if we can pull it out a little more, even more. So yeah. And despite how the legs are designed, you can actually bend them pretty well. And we have more joints revealed here. And yeah, no feet as well. And this is not really mentioned on the box, but we have these back yellow parts you can actually open up like this. So yeah, go figure. And that's pretty much it for the articulation as far as I can tell, or at least the basic articulations. Obviously, there's much more articulation going on here with all those joints going on. So yeah, you can see this figure can become a little bit messy if you're not sure what you're doing. Now I would like to show you guys this part. So these are the slashing effect parts. So these are pretty simple. All you need to do is just pretty much plug it in. There's actually a hole there, so just plug it in, and there you go. And depending on how you pose it, you can actually do a pretty decent slash pose. Come on. So you can do a pretty decent slash pose going on here. So that's pretty cool. Or you can just use them as sides. So yeah, if you want to do so. And for those, and here's one of those parts for the arm. So you have to, there isn't actually a left and right because this arm has a 74, so you have to go with the arm with the 74. And all you need to do is just plug it out and plug it in. Of course, this can be a little bit tricky sometimes because the arms don't go in that easily. So what I usually do is take out one of these joints and just replug it in. And as you can see, these are also technically ratchet joints, but the ratchet noise are a little bit, not as loud as the big ones. And there you go. You just need to plug it in, and there you go. You have the ones with the fingers. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the figure, so I'll be right back to prepare the transformation. Okay, I'm back, so I'm done with the preparation. So I did say preparations, but basically they just require you to take off the legs. Of course, even though you do take off the legs, you need to, how should I say this? You need to reposition the Revoltech joints into a certain position. So, which is why I just wanted to save time and already did that. So I took off the legs. All you need to do is just pull off the Revoltech joints from here, the leg joints, and then you're good to go. So as I mentioned, being a parts foreigner, this is the part that you use. You can see there's two Revoltech joint looking pegs over there. So all you need to do is just plug those into the holes where the legs were in. So I believe this is the correct direction. If not, maybe it's this direction. Okay, there we go. So you just plug them in. They should be a perfect fit. There we go. That's a perfect fit, and I'm going to put the legs on the last. So now the manual they don't actually give you a manual for this. The manual is actually on the back of the box, and it's a very simple looking manual. So I'm going to do this the best way how I understood this. So number one is that you need to flip this section, the switch looking thing up here. So and then just pretty much flip these two side things, the one with the barcode and 76 right next to the head, something like this as far as I understood. And then you just need to push in, you just need to put the face down right over here like this. And then this section where I believe should be the cockpit, you have to move it up like this, because we also have one of these Revoltech joints, but the ones with the dual Revoltech joints, so you can move it up and down. So from here to like this to cover up the face. Now the one thing I have a little bit as a complaint is that there's nothing that locks into place. So this could feel a little bit wobbly. And let's see. And then all you need to do is just basically reposition the wings. So the way how I understood these is that you need to put the wings like this, and then you have to move the arms like this to the back of the section right over here, and then you have to flip it up right over here, and then make them go like an X shape, as far as I understood this. But this is the model kit version. The model kit is that, but the way how the manual tells you is just basically do something like this and you're good to go. So sorry if this is not exactly accurate, but yeah, this is the way how I understood the manual. I am aware that not many people are too fond of like Revoltech figures, because basically the fact that they are a little bit tricky to handle is, like, I guess is the most main issue regarding how like people treat on Revoltech figures. So you do something like this. Now the arms are totally a little bit different, but yeah. So you do something like this. So I basically made it in an X shape, but not the way how the model kit does it. You do it something like this, and then you're ready to put on the legs. So there we go. So you put now the directions of the leg are the same, but you need to, first the legs were like this, now you have to do it like this, and then just replug them in onto these holes. And there you go. So as you can see, I already repositioned the Revoltech joints to the correct location, so they look alright, I guess. But yeah, and something just happened to the point where things got a lot messier. So yeah. So there we go. So this is something that it should look like if you did it correctly, or something like this. So not the best transformation, I'm gonna say, a little bit on the messy side. So yeah, but it's an okay concept, because Revoltech figures are not really well known to transform. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure I got these arms incorrectly, but you get the idea on what you need to do with those arms. And for those who are wondering, yes, there is actually a hole. This is not the separate part. This is actually on the figure. There are two holes here, but of course I think this is the hole that the one on the top is the one that you're meant to use, because the bottom section one just basically doesn't make any sense. And there you go, you have the transformation or something like that. Now you need after you've done like attaching stuff, you need to now fidget your way around to make them in the right position to make it look more natural. So yeah, good. That's up to you now. And that's pretty much it for the review. So this was the review of the Revoltech Vic Viper. So if you're a big fan of the character or the mech that was in the game, it's okay to try it out. But if you're not a big fan of figures, you can always try the one from Kotobukiya, which I guess at this point I should try out. Anyway, thanks for watching the review. This was the review of the Revoltech Vic Viper from Zone of Enders. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.